This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, don't forget to join me on my Instagram Live that I host every Thursday night at 8:45 p.m. All right, now if you've kept up with my announcements on this, we used to do this at Thursdays at 2 p.m. And I was like, you know what, let's do it in the evening when people are more free. Then I moved it to 6. That didn't work. Then I moved it to 8 and 8:30, and then I had to pick up my son from his band practice. So we're now doing it at 8:45. But join in. It's a fun 15-minute discussion about what's going on in public relations that week. Maybe some recaps of some current events, what's going on in PR, as well as we play our game called Why Is That News, where I grab a story out of my local newspaper and I try to dissect it and figure out what the PR person was thinking when they pitched the story, what the reporter was thinking when they reported the story, and see how we can make our pitches and our work with reporters just a little bit better. So Instagram Live on my Instagram, that's at Jody Fisher. Thursday nights at 8:45. We hope to see you there. Now let's get on with our show for today. And a terrific guest is joining us. Alexandra Elich-Burr is Director of Communications and Media Relations for Mother Bear, formerly Kingston Marketing Group, that's based in Charlotte, North Carolina, but is a fully remote agency serving clients across the country. She's a prior TV news reporter in Charlotte and in South Bend, Indiana markets. She's worked for startups and agencies as well, and she puts all of that experience into helping her clients across real estate, online and tech brands, public companies, and more. Alexandra, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jody. That was quite an intro. I wish that intro could be for any time I enter a room, right?
There you go, right? We'll tape it. We'll play it back. So tell us about that name, Mother Bear.
Yes, it's super interesting, right? And that was one of the purposes. We wanted to evoke an emotion. Just like you said, Mother Bear was formerly Kingston Marketing Group, but we are an independent marketing and communications agency. And the name Mother Bear really comes in because we, want to guide, protect, and nurture, right? As we, scale brands through their growth journey and just help provide them clarity, credibility through just any customer conversion. And I've really, really enjoyed my time here. It's been absolutely wonderful and work with a very talented team. The agency was founded by former corporate leaders, actually from companies like Zillow, Starbucks, and Leo Burnett and Digitas. So it's really bringing, that unique blend of in-house experience, sort of being on the other side, and then also some, of course, agency experience to provide that insight.
I love that name too. And I got to ask you, Mother Bear, nurturing and protecting, but do the claws have to come out every once in a while?
They do. You know what? They do not, unfortunately. We are very, very, very friendly bears. I would say almost, we actually call ourselves the pack, which is fun. And I think our clients will refer to us sometimes as hey bears. And being a Chicago native, it's actually a little fun for me being also a Bears fan. Although I wish that team was better, but that's a story for another day. But no, it's been, wonderful experience. Of course, we pride ourselves in being very real with our clients and a strategic partner with our clients as well. So we're definitely, not the team to not and agree with everything. We want to, again, just be that strategic partner and help our clients just through the entire process and make decisions that, are best for their brand and their company.
That's great. Now, you and I share a similar background. You and I were
Yeah.
both broadcast reporters before we got into public relations. I shared a little bit of my story with you off screen here, but tell me about your journey from reporter to PR professional.
Yes. Oh, I'm so grateful for the journey. I started, as you said, in South Bend, Indiana as a multimedia journalist, which I know you're aware of, but for those who aren't, an MMJ is essentially they do it all, right? They're the one-man band who find the interviews, write the story, film it, edit it, whole thing. And then after being in South Bend for about 2 years, I knew it was time to, make the next move, which as you, again, in TV, you stay somewhere 2 years and you're kind of like, all right, time to find something else, go to a bigger market, and got an opportunity in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a top 20 market and was a really, really big jump at the time. And just really enjoyed it. I was a nightside reporter there for our primetime show. So it was very involved in covering stories that were a little depressing, to be honest, like, court cases, homicides, talking to people on their worst day. And I found that that was really starting to take a toll on me. You sort of start to normalize, like, oh, I just covered that this person got, m- caught by a stray bullet and passed away. You think, oh, if my, you know, fiance or partner is going to be out and about, will that happen to them? So it just became very anxiety inducing. And like we were talking about before we started recording, if I had like $1 for every gas station bathroom I got ready in or like camped out in, basically, I'd be able to retire. Like, it is not a glamorous job at all, but it's an important one, right? You're informing the public, and still have so much respect for journalists and journalism to this day. But I just knew it was time for me to pivot, and I wanted to be able to leverage my storytelling skills and still be able to interact with the media. And just, again, the root of being a journalist is telling stories. So I was like, how can I use that? And knew that it was time to make the jump. So started off just looking for roles. And I'm sure as you found as well, it's really hard to make a career pivot as a journalist. A lot of people want you to start, in entry level roles, or don't necessarily understand how broadcast journalism or journalism in general can translate really well to public relations and communications. So it was a struggle for a while, but I did finally get an opportunity with an agency based in New York, where I worked with clients like, Match Group, Mint Mobile, and was really able to get some, down and dirty and kind of get my chops in PR and really understand that world. And then I got an opportunity to be head of communications for a startup here in Charlotte. But ultimately, I saw the opportunity for where I am now at Mother Bear. And actually, the CEO of Mother Bear, or one of the partners rather, went to my college. So I used my, reporter brain and just cold DM'd her and was like, hey, I saw this position is open. Could it, can we have a phone call? And she was actually a print journalist first in her career. So she understood the value and skills that I could bring to the table. And she also knew that I not only LinkedIn DM'd her, but also found her email and emailed her and was like this close to, and followed up on that email. So it was very persistent and tenacious. And I think she recognized how that could really also translate in the media relations world, right? So all that to say, long story short, I've been at Mother Bear for 2.5 years now and have truly never been happier in this role. I cannot say enough positive things about this agency and this company. They fostered such an incredible like team, flexibility, and also just people truly care about each other. So it's just smart people doing good work, and I've learned a ton. So long story short, that's sort of been my journey from news to now.
That's great. I love hearing the story of the journey. And I think it's really important, especially that either younger people here or that people who are trying to make that transition here, because it's not readily obvious,
Right.
to people how people have got from point A to point B, how people have made those pivots, those career pivots. And so I always like having guests share those stories. Let's talk about those transferable skills. You've got them, I've got them. What ones do you find most valuable to you when you're going through or when you're across the table from a client or you're trying to think through a campaign?
Sure.
What skills, what reporter traits are you drawing on saying, we got to do it this way because, or,
Right.
you're trying to set something up or explain something to a client?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, threefold, right? Not only just being extremely deadline driven and understanding how a reporter's workflow works. To me, that's invaluable. Even for example, I found when I was a reporter, I wasn't so attached to my email inbox. I was reaching out to sources through multiple mediums. I would, DM them on Instagram or cold call them or, I mean, it really ran the gamut. So I think being able to meet journalists where they are and understand their workflow and how they reach out and how their day really unfolds is so paramount because I always tell my clients if you are sending a pitch in the afternoon, it's an absolute miss because the first thing journalists are doing is having their editorial meeting in the morning to decide what they're going to cover that day. And also understanding that if you're offering a spokesperson or you are the spokesperson, when you pitch, you need to be ready right then for an interview. You can't wait, a day or two to perfect. It needs to move really quickly. So having that attitude and being able to be fast paced and deadline driven is absolutely, I think, key in the PR world. And then also really just understanding what makes a good story. I know that sounds basic, but I remember when I was a journalist, obviously, you get thousands of pitches a day. And a lot of them are just, they're such a miss because they're missing the so what, the why does the viewer care? Why does the reader care? So I think really encouraging my clients to look at it through that lens is extremely helpful and also encouraging them and what we actually specialize in at Mother Bear is data storytelling. Data speaks the loudest when it comes to stories. And I always knew that as a journalist. I was like, we can come here and, say A, B, and C from this expert or what have you, but we really need data to be the concrete foundation to be the validator here, right? So I'm always encouraging my clients to really leverage any proprietary data. How can we find that data with, survey questions? How can we make this a little more meaty and juicy? There's just, I mean, I really encourage former journalists who are trying to make the switch to have confidence and keep going. And I'm always happy to review a resume or make a connection because your skills are important and they're so transferable to so many industries, even beyond PR and corporate comms.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. I was just thinking the other day about the training that I got in newsrooms, and how it made me think, and I think how it sort of solidified my thinking at a young age. When I'm in my 20s, right out of college, working in a big city, New York City newsroom, you you live second to second. I mean,
Right.
I was in an all news radio newsroom, right? So you're live all the time, every second of the day.
Yep.
And it teaches you how to work quickly, to work efficiently, to
Hmm.
watch the clock, and to understand how the news gets delivered based on what the finished product needs to be. And I always encourage. I don't. I want to hear what you
Totally.
talked with your clients. I always encourage them if they're trying to find the story, envision the finished product. What do you think this looks like at the end?
Right.
And then let's back out of that.
Totally. Like, what does the headline look like? Like, what would be your dream headline? I'll tell my clients for this story. And then let's do a work back, right? How can we actually, put this into place? And I think that's what's, again, just makes former journalists so strong in these roles is we know that so what we know that again they're journalists are looking through that lens of why does the viewer or reader care and understand there's also so many opportunities for newsjacking, right? But it has to advance the story. It can't just tell the same story that's already out there. We have to critically think about how our expert, our data, our POV can advance that narrative. And I always encourage my clients to, we have to have a unique POV. It can't just be, what everyone's seen in the news cycle. It needs to be different and have really strong key messages associated with it. And I think that's, again, being a former journalist, I think you and I are in a unique position where I feel like by habit, we're so plugged into the news cycle, right? It's almost like an addiction with, being, watching the news, just looking, at various social media platforms for stories. Being so plugged in can really help our clients identify, what the next story needs to be to advance that narrative, and how we can quickly either maybe latch on and newsjack onto some sort of piece of news, or again, just tell a different perspective and a varied story based on that news hook.
Getting a client's goals, well, getting a client to actually explain their goals, first of
Yes.
all. But getting the client's goals and the client's story to align can sometimes be challenging, right?
Right.
We want to be in the New York Times so we can, I don't know, sell more widgets, right?
Sure.
Well, the New York Times isn't going to write about you selling your widgets unless you're maybe Apple or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but you've got a story about how being creative in PR can yield great business results. And that's
That's
kind of,
right.
I wanted you to explain that specific case study because I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I have three in mind actually that I think would be relevant. But first, one is actually quite simple. At Mother Bear, we really wanted to do a webinar for one of our clients. And webinar is really hard to get media to attend. It's hard to engage. Let's be honest, most are quite boring. So it can be exactly, it can be a realistic tactic for some. But if you're trying to reach the top tier press, who, just like we said, are moving a million miles a minute and turning multiple stories a day, I mean, good luck. So we came together, my whole team. Actually, one thing I love about Mother Bear is we have something called Swarm, where the comms, marketing, digital strategy side will all come together during the week and basically propose, like, do you have any ideas of how we can make this better, just get another set of eyes from a different vertical, right? And we sort of came up with the idea with, what if we just rebranded the webinar to a virtual press conference? It's active voice, it's something reporters can resonate with, and it also sort of dangles that carrot for reporters as well, to say, maybe I should show up to this. This is a press conference. Maybe there's some, and we want to make it worth their while, right? We don't want to mislead reporters and say, oh, it's a virtual press conference, this is boring webinar. Maybe there's a new report that we're unveiling, or some, breaking news, or a company announcement that's really relevant to, those beat reporters that are coming. You can get really creative with it. But one thing too that we like to do at Mother Bear is also, again, I know it sounds, um, it can be replicated, but really data reports are so, so strong. But it's all about how you brand those data reports, right? So I really encourage PR professionals and comms folks to be really creative in their approach. Can they work with an economist to bring them in and create some sort of index? Can they make this? I mean, can they do a survey and then validate it with, government data or something along those lines? But just getting really creative with reports and data, also creating maybe like data portals that can be a quick pull for journalists. I've also encouraged clients to create on their website basically like make it look like a media outlet, essentially. So you go to the newsroom on their website and it looks like a media outlet where they can pull assets, pull stories, pull data, a one-stop shop for them to be a complete resource for journalists. Because at the end of the day, that's what we are, right? We want to position ourselves as a resource for journalists. How can we be here to make your life easier? And also, of course, having the our clients are, there's a I'm struggling for the word, but obviously we want to make our client's story known. So I think, but it's that twofold, right? It really needs to be telling journalists, how can we be a resource for you? And that's been I've been a huge proponent of that. Just calling journalists, asking for coffee, having desk sides with them is so valuable. I had a junior PR person ask me the other day, do you still find desk sides or having calls with journalists valuable? I'm like, absolutely. Because not only does it allow you to say, how can I help you tell this story? What do you need? But also be able to pick their brain and help them develop these stories and be an active part of the process. I find those tactics really, really valuable. But again, it's all just about being creative. And I think we're at this inflection point in public relations, particularly with AI, where, a lot of the old methods might not work anymore. Pitching one by one in a spreadsheet, it can be outdated in some ways, or just there's a lot of tactics that I think that will go to rest. And how can we really leverage these AI platforms to make our stories stronger, to make outreach stronger? How can we, work with ChatGPT to make your brand or your client be well received if someone searches for them on ChatGPT? So I really think that being creative and then leveraging technology is really going to be the way for PR pros to not be left behind in the future.
Yeah, if there's one consistent in our industry is that it's always changing.
Exactly.
Well, you know what?
Exactly.
Right. You are far younger than I am, but I started in the days of fax machines and the AP wire copy dinging in the corner of the
Oh my
newsroom.
gosh.
So and now we're up to things like, social media and
Right.
celebrity endorsements and the blurring line between paid and earned. And there's so much I'm sure we could talk about for hours here.
Right.
But we really appreciate you lending your expertise here and coming on the show and sharing your experience with us. Thank you.
Of course, this has been an absolute blast. And again, I encourage anyone listening who might be looking to make the transition from journalism to PR, again, to reach out. I'd be happy to be a resource, to make a connection, to review a resume. So many did that for me. So I really want to pay it forward as they make that transition. So thank you for having me. This has been so fun.
Oh, well, we're not done with you yet now,
Oh,
Alexandra.
perfect.
Hang on. We are going to segue now
Love
into the
it.
rapid fire question portion
Duh.
of our podcast. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor studio. I know I am dating myself with that reference. But we are going to ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. With your indulgence, Alexandra Elich-Burr, let's begin with rapid fire question number one. What is your
Do it.
favorite news source?
Oof, I would say that's so hard. But I would have to say NPR. I also just love their podcast. It's quick. It gives me the thing, what I need to know for the day. It's also, I just think it's really, really well done reporting.
Good stuff. Rapid fire question number two. What's your favorite social media platform?
Ooh, that's really tough. I would have to say right now, TikTok. I'm really loving, again, just with evolving journalism, how these journalists and TikTok creators are creating essentially their own news outlets and it's forcing people to consume news differently. It's really exciting.
The TikTok pushes the envelope every single day, and the
Yes.
people and the creators who are on there, I think, are just amazing and doing things in ways that social media has never seen before.
Agreed. Shout out to the news girl. She is really a valuable, valuable resource and has accurate, unbiased, amazing, content she puts out there. So I really respect her.
Love it. Rapid fire question number three, coffee or alcohol?
Jody, coffee. Look, I got my banana bread latte from Backyard Brew here in Charlotte.
Good stuff. Rapid fire question number four, what's your favorite on the run food?
Ooh, I would have to say chicken nuggets from a place again in Charlotte called Bossy Beulah's. There's nothing better than a fresh chicken nugget.
I like it. And rapid fire question number five. What do you want to be after you finish this career? You've already had a couple, but
Yes.
where's the finish line?
Oh man, that is so tough. I really love public relations. I want to see where this career takes me. And I definitely want to stay in this world as long as I can tell stories and drive awareness and help people. That's what I'm passionate about. So if there's another path that includes those three items, I'm down to explore. But right now, I just really think public relations, and then after, hopefully retiring by the beach
There
or
you
in
go. There you go. There you
London.
go. Alexandra, this has been a great conversation. Please let people know how they can find you online.
Yes, absolutely. You can find me on my LinkedIn, Alexandra Elich-Burr, on Instagram. Just my handle is Alex Elich-Burr. I know, creative. And then also on Twitter or on X rather. Same thing, Alex Elich-Burr. I'm not the most creative when it comes to handles, but always there to offer a response.
We're reporters. We're factual. We're obvious, right? We don't.
Exactly.
We don't play games.
And I have to do one more plug, actually. I started a women's professional networking group here in Charlotte called Network Queen, which on Instagram is Network QN. And if anyone, again, I try to use that as a resource to help develop resumes. It's free. It's just something we do for fun and just helping, women in the Charlotte area connect with one another and uplift one another. So always happy to be a resource in that regard as well.
We'll link that in the show notes as well, Alexandra. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Appold. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.